Good day, good evening. Welcome to the Checking the Gate podcast. I am your host, Douglas Ferguson, and here we have a new guest host. Say hello and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Leaminn Ma.
Super exciting. Welcome to the show. And we met, you and I guess in, I want to say February, was that it? When we were preparing for a short film that we were working on.
Yeah,
which I haven't
February.
heard anything from.
Me neither. Did they just throw it in the garbage?
I don't know. But we did our parts. We acted with the parts that we needed to act. So, job well done there. And yeah, we've been hanging out and sharing appreciation for film and acting. And I guess what is your connection to the Vancouver film scene at this point in time?
Well, I started maybe a little over 2.5 years ago. I made a serious transition from a completely different field, and when I started my acting classes, I just fell in love with it. So I've never looked back on my former job, which I'm so glad to have left.
Chasing the creative buzz in you, I understand that. The notion of doing like a 9-to-5 desk job.
Oh my God!
It sounds like
I would die.
And you've also started podcasting as well, haven't you? Can you tell us a bit about the other podcast that you're working on?
Right. So my friend and I started a new website. It's called podswithbenefits.com. And
Sounds pretty sexy.
The idea behind it is that we will host a whole bunch of different shows, either by just my friend Dan McPeak, who does Endeavor's Radio on CSJF, I think that's the radio station, SFE Radio and such. And he does a segment every week where he interviews different musicians and actors and influential people in the political world. And he basically has 3 guests per episode, and usually it's it's good.
It's good.
It's good.
Excellent.
And so since he has that show, we decided to collaborate and make a new show that is called I'll Drink to That, and it's basically interviewing different guests, again, like different musicians, actors, or other influential people, or just like regular Joes. And we interview them while drinking, as in not wasted, but
you get them a little bit more socially lubricated.
Exactly, just buzzed enough to just interview them as regular people and not have to be so formal about it.
Yeah. Okay. So the whole idea is just to get them like really loose and just talk to them like they're dudes.
Yeah,
like
exactly. And then we'll find different things about them, not necessarily just on their career, but just and we might do stupid games or something like that.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Let's get the ball rolling. Today we are talking about the animated classic Toy Story.
It's a big one.
Walt Disney Pictures presents a totally new animated motion picture event.
Star Command, come in. Do you read me?
The story of 2 toys.
There seems to be no sign of intelligent life anywhere.
Hello?
Oh, yeah!
Headed for a showdown.
My name is Woody. This is my spot.
I am Buzz Lightyear. I come in peace.
You are a child's plaything!
You are a sad, strange little man.
This holiday season, the adventure takes off when toys come to life.
To infinity and beyond!
Toy Story.
Look out! Can.
Yay!
Yay!
No, I'm serious. I love this movie. Right, so it's a Disney Pixar animated movie that came out in, 1995?
1995?
Yeah.
I believe it was a Christmas movie, so
right.
Christmas 95. This is the first entirely CG animated feature-length film. The year before, there was a show that came out called Reboot. Did you
I
ever
love
watch
Reboot. I watched the whole thing.
Yeah, I love Reboot as well.
Hexadecimal.
Yeah. And that was the first computer-generated television show, and I believe that came out in 94. But to take on a whole feature film, I mean, I assume that they've been working on it for ages. That was quite a feat for the time, and I think that a lot of people knew just by how well Toy Story did and how good it looked that this was going to like change the industry as far as animation goes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it takes place in a world where toys are alive, and specifically toys in a child named Andy's room. And there's a bit of a panic when Andy's birthday happening, all the toys are worried about being replaced, except for Woody, who is
Andy's favorite toy.
Andy's favorite toy ever since kindergarten, according to Mr. Potato Head. During Andy's birthday party, he gets a new Buzz Lightyear, which is the hottest toy on the market right now.
It's something new and exciting because it's all about space and the future, whereas Woody is a cowboy toy, which is very kind of like old Western days.
Yeah, basically, Buzz Lightyear becomes Andy's new favorite toy, and he starts to sort of shelve Woody and put him with the rest of his toys, leaving Woody behind in the dust. A sad, age-old story.
Of course.
Yeah, I think that this movie touches on a lot of interesting ideas and a lot of bigger themes. You know, I think a lot of people kind of dismiss cartoon films, not so much anymore, but I think there was a time where animated films, there was this notion that they were still like just for kids. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's a lot of adult stuff going on in this film on a level that I think a lot of kids won't get.
Right, exactly. And even today, I mean, I'm in my 20s, I'm not going to say specifically, but I love Pixar animated movies. I mean, I thought Toy Story is extremely well made because when you're watching it, it feels way longer than it is. I mean, animated movies tend to be quite short because it takes so long to make it. So I think Toy Story, the first one was around an hour and 20 minutes or so.
I think it was about like an hour and a half or so.
Yeah.
Thereabouts. It wasn't a super long film.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm used to watching a lot of movies that are 2 hours plus 2.5 hours these days. That's what I love about Toy Story. It's just so full, so well written.
Yeah, for the writing credit, one thing that a lot of people don't know about is that the screenplay was co-written by Joss Whedon, who I guess at this point in time is a really big deal. He wasn't at that point. Now he's like the guy who made the Avengers and made the Avengers Age of Ultron and Firefly and Serenity and Buffy and all that. But yeah, at this point, this Toy Story must have just been kind of a gig that he got, and I think that the screenplay is one of the places where it does shine. It has a good sense of humor. There's a lot of like, especially like you and I, we're 90s kids, right?
Yes, yeah.
All of these toys were there's a lot of them that are very familiar.
Oh yeah, like Mr. Potato Head, of course.
And also like the Treasure Troll.
Right.
Were you around when Treasure Trolls were a thing?
I don't know what. Oh, is it
like
just trolls
little...
with the hair?
Yeah.
Yes. But, that was kind of phasing out by the time I got to it.
Yeah.
Oh, then the toy soldiers.
Yeah, everyone had those toy soldiers.
Yeah.
Those were cross-generational.
Yeah, I think I went on a Vegas trip with my parents, and instead of gambling, they had ticket arcades for children, right? And then you'd always like win tickets and trade them in for toys, and one of the things was like a pack of, like a jar of soldiers.
Yeah, I mean, they look like they're not too expensive to make. Do you remember the first time you saw Toy Story?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I didn't watch it in theaters. I watched it when it came out on VHS.
Yeah.
You remember those kids?
Yes, them videotapes. The videotapes. Yeah, I remember I did see it in theaters. I was about 9 years old. And then I even remember, like, before it came out on video, which, like, at that time, it seemed like it was an eternity between when something came out in theaters and then went to video.
Oh, yeah, it took forever.
And I remember going, like, I knew that we'd get it because my parents really liked it, and it was a Disney film. He mostly had like Disney films on tape. Our movie collection was mostly Disney films and Star Trek. That was what I grew up on. That was my diet.
I definitely had Disney films, and we had so many Disney VHSs, which would be worth quite a lot right now. But now I don't know where it is. I regret it. The Beauty and the Beast one, VHS, or at least one of them, can go for like $500 at least. Right now, yeah.
I would have thought that everyone was itching to get rid of them. Like,
yeah, exactly. That's why it's antique now. Can you believe that something that we lived through is now an antique?
I would have never guessed. I would have thought that, you could just find it at thrift stores, But what do I know? So I remember distinctly like wishing like oh man, I really want to get Toy Story. I can't wait till it comes out. And I was waiting I think we got it like the following Christmas. So Christmas '96 we got it on tape. And then my youngest brother, who's like 21 now, he used to watch it religiously because he was just a kid, and like kids, they love to watch the same old movie over and over again.
Oh yeah. So
I've seen Toy Story now like probably 19 billion times, thereabouts. That one and The Lion King. Although actually I think that was a different brother, but my other younger brother, he was Lion King. And then the next brother was Toy Story. So those ones like I could recite almost, or at least I used to be able to. So when we watched this film to prepare for the podcast, it had actually been quite a while since I've seen Toy Story. Yeah, probably first time in at least a decade. So thanks for the opportunity to check it out again, because I think that it kind of spoke to me on a different level than it did when I was a kid. Like, I think I understood the notions of Woody being jealous, but I think there's some more personal stuff that comes with that. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess, what is it that you feel you really connected to this time around when you watched it? Like, what is it that really, the sort of deeper ideas behind the film that you really latched onto?
You know what? I definitely appreciate it way more watching it as an adult than I did as a kid. I mean, as a kid, it's like, oh, cool, these toys that, we all have are suddenly alive and they're moving. And actually, since I watched it, I started being really nice to my toys.
I think a lot of people did.
Yeah.
I think it was just one of those cases like, man, just in case they're hiding.
Yeah. And then you realize that it's like, oh man, I shouldn't like rip apart their like heads and stuff, or like change their clothes, or leave them naked. It's demeaning to them. And then
have some dignity, Bobby.
Yes, you should
cover up
treat
those
them like
boobs.
You should treat them like pet and be really nice to them. Yeah, so we all treated our toys nicer. For me, what really sticks out about Toy Story is sort of almost like the obvious theme, but yeah, the idea of being replaced with something newer, better, or the idea being not the favorite, right? And I think, especially since like I have an older sister, we kind of dealt with our parents choosing favorites a lot, right? So then we connected to that on that level.
Yeah, parents are like, oh, no, like no one's our favorite, but then secretly you kind of know they have a favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's like.
And even today, just in anything you do, right, you're always kind of competing, and someone else is going to come take your place, right? Everything that you are and will ever be is ephemeral.
Well, don't worry, we're still in our 20s. We're not old yet. We're still.
To me, old now is like 90.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of youthful people in their 50s.
Oh yeah,
and 60s, yeah.
Yeah, my boss at my job is in his 60s, and I'm like, hey man, he still looks good. He's still hanging in there.
Yeah, well, everyone's kind of averaging out at like 100 now.
Yeah, I mean, if you treat yourself well, you can last a lot longer these days. That's for sure. Yeah, I think that's what I connected with the film as well, on this level of like jealousy. I think when you're a kid, there's sort of a more superficial kind of jealousy, but I think there's been some more cases more recently in my life where I've sort of actually like felt like legitimate, like a burning jealousy of kind of like what Woody was feeling, and it's kind of unsettling to see that reflected so like clearly in a kid's movie,
Yeah, because I mean, in Woody's perspective, he's spent so many years being loving and adoring to Andy, and being a good toy, being a leader amongst the other toys. See, that's the other thing. He was a leader among the toys, and they started to follow Buzz. Right, and basically Buzz came out of nowhere, and in his case, he hadn't put as much effort into gaining everyone's trust as Woody had at that time, right? So I guess he feels like his efforts are wasted.
Well, I guess as an actress, you must be also familiar with this sort of idea of
of
playing with status, and like how Woody's status is being like kind of torn away from him, and now he's suddenly put on this much lower place and sort of than where he was.
Right.
Before, and Buzz has the status, and Buzz doesn't even know he has the status that he does amongst the toys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh man, that is interesting because, especially in the acting industry, ageism exists so much that, as soon as something newer, prettier comes in, then whatever work you put into your acting career kind of goes out the window.
Oh, that's a good point. Unfortunately, especially with women in the acting industry,
yes.
They reach a certain age and then they stop. Their work starts to slow down. At least sometime, or at least most of the time, I'd say. There's some occasions, and I think hopefully it's going to happen less and less as the industry evolves. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the time, unfortunately, when you stop being like really young,
yes,
you stop getting the callbacks, unfortunately.
It's true. I mean, there will always be the Meryl Streeps and Julianne Moores who are, timeless. But, even them, they've struggled through a lot of, trying to maintain their career as they got older. And I remember, I think Meryl Streep one time said as soon as she hit 40 or something like that, all she got was like old witch roles, right? It's not new and young and hip anymore. There was that article about Maggie Gyllenhaal, how like she was apparently too old to be the partner of a male in his 50s or something. And she's like, I think she's 30-something.
Yeah, that's true. You can even see that in the movie Focus, the one where it was recently came out with Will Smith and Margot Robbie. And Will Smith he's starting to push near 50. Mm-hmm. And he looks good.
Oh, yeah.
He looks great. But Margot Robbie is younger than me. She's like 25.
Yeah.
So that's kind of weird.
Yeah, that is like unfortunate, because the other thing is that there are already way fewer roles written for women anyway, right? Mm-hmm. So then once you do reach that age where you're not as wanted, then your opportunities go down even more. Whereas like guys can be a silver fox and reach their peak career at 50-something, 50s, like 40s, late 40s.
And there's more interesting parts, I think, for a lot of men as well, like just strange, more character actor kind of parts for older guys. Not as many.
Well, lucky
for women.
you, Doug.
I mean, yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, it's great for me, but at the same time, I don't want it to just be good for me. I would love to see more equal representation in film.
Yeah.
And I guess I hope to use my status as a straight white male to sort of help propel things in a different direction.
Right. Yeah.
But I only have so much control at the moment. Which is barely anything. So
yeah. So, anyways, that was a little segue into our acting lives,
yeah.
But that's why we connected to that movie.
I mean, yeah. Essentially, Woody, he's just Maggie Gyllenhaal right now.
I know, and
he can't be the partner of Andy, who's 6 years old.
And Buzz Lightyear is like the Emma Stone or someone younger.
Yeah, Buzz Lightyear is the Emma Stone. There we go.
Yeah. But
I did connect even on a personal level of Woody's struggle, because if we don't mind getting personal and a little dark, it kind of made me think of the notion of being replaced. I think as someone who's been in relationships and having those failed, and we always kind of want to be irreplaceable. Like even though if we love the person, like on a logical level, like no, we want them to find somebody and to be happy, and that's okay. But there's kind of like this deep dark thing inside of us all who are like, no, I kind of want them to be miserable without me. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean, Doug. We're all a little evil that way. I hope you burn in hell.
Because I think it's just all of us that's like, we just don't want anybody to replace us. We just want to be like this really special somebody, like who's missed
and loved solely,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I
think Doug and I have this emptiness in us.
Well, at least we have each other.
Yeah.
It's interesting that for the first time I watched Toy Story, and it really connected to me on this like really deep, very sad part of me. And I'm like, wow, like this, there's a reason that Pixar for ages were the master storytellers of animation, is that they have this really funny script and these really like cool, references to toys and toys of the 90s, but there is this really very real emotional core to the movie that I think is why it's the classic and why it's still remembered literally 20 years later.
Yes. So, I mean, whoever hasn't watched it yet, I really invite you to watch and just give it a chance. Even, for example, my sister's fiance, he's like, no, it's animated. I don't watch animated crap, right? And
really?
And I was thinking, no, you don't understand. You'll change. You'll change after watching this.
Are people still like that?
Yes.
There's still people who are like, no, it's animated. I'm not a kid.
Is that your impression of an old man?
I guess so. Even though I'm sure your sister's fiance is probably around the same age as me. I don't know. How is he?
He's around 34.
Okay, then no,
Yeah.
he's older.
Yeah.
So he is an old man. There we go.
There you go. That's the line between old and young.
Yeah, it's
Honestly, though, I think it's extremely clever that they use the idea of toys. Some people might think, oh, it's so obvious and everything, right? But it's actually really clever to me because, for one thing, the CG wasn't as good back then, right? So it's harder for them to make like realistic humans, right? And using toys, because they have like smooth edges and like rounded like plastic bodies with no details basically, right? Very little details. It makes it visually appealing on screen. So even to this day, when you watch Toy Story, you don't think, oh my goodness, it's such a choppy CG kind of cheeseballs like animation where it's like green screen or something. It's actually still appropriately high quality for today.
I was actually surprised that, it did actually age really well. There's a few shortcomings kind of like in the people. And I think that's why they went with the toy characters.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they didn't have to make them look really real.
The idea was to not make them look real. They have to look like toys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. Like the animation it still holds up pretty well, which is great because there's a lot of other in the 90s there was a lot of CG sequences in movies and some of them do not hold up nearly as well.
No. Do you remember the Titanic? When you watch it today and you see the whole ship
Oh, it doesn't look so good.
No, it looks like they're on a freaking... It's like an old game system. And they're on like a digital boat.
Okay.
Like a pixel boat.
I haven't seen Titanic in ages. I don't even think... Actually, I haven't seen Titanic from start to finish.
Oh, yeah, it's quite long.
I've seen a lot of pieces of it. I've probably seen most of it. One of the worst I think of for bad 90s CG is... did you ever see the movie Spawn?
Oh, yes, but I vaguely remember it.
Based off of a comic book in the 90s. There's a sequence where Spawn gets pulled into hell, and then there's a big devil, and it looks so bad.
Yeah.
It looks really, really bad.
Yeah, it's too bad that it takes away from the story. I mean, although most movies that did use CG was usually action and not so, profound. So it usually worked out. And that's why I really liked Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park still holds up.
Yes, I would love to talk about that one day, but it's because they also use animatronics, like actual machines. Mm-hmm. So it looked way cooler.
Well, the first episode of the Checking the Gate podcast was Jurassic Park. Yeah,
really?
We did talk about it.
Yeah, so I missed that.
So you'll have to... alas, that ship has sailed, but... Yeah. Maybe there's always Jurassic Park 2 and 3. Yeah, okay, so let's try and get critical here. Let's see if we can find something that we don't like.
Okay. Oh, you're right. This is the harder part.
Yeah. Sometimes it's nice and easy, but can we think of something that we didn't like about Toy Story? Because we do have these nostalgic glasses, but I do feel like there's never a perfect movie.
I guess one of the things that stood out for me was that every human character, like non-toy character, was very shallow. Like very superficial. Mm-hmm. And I understand that they kind of made it that way to take the focus away from the fact that it's an inhuman world, right? And focus in on the toy world. Yeah, pretty much all the human characters were pretty stereotypical. There's nothing more to them, but, like sweet mom loves his son, boy who's just like growing up with toys, and that really mean neighbor boy who just likes to destroy things, and he's very... stereotypically a psychopath.
Yeah. I guess there aren't a lot of levels to Andy and to Sid and to Andy's mom, and there's not really a lot of opportunity for them to kind of like branch out and become. Yeah,
because you don't want to take away from the story of the toy. So I get that, because I think it might even be a little awkward to try to make them have more levels. Although, what's interesting is that so many times there were moments where it's like, why wouldn't the humans notice something really weird happen? Like when Buzz Lightyear and Woody just fell into the car from the rooftop, and he just heard a noise. He looks to the left. Oh, they're here in this box that was completely open that I clearly saw beforehand, that I clearly would have checked.
Yeah, there's some level of suspension of disbelief that you have to have. But I do kind of agree. Although, to be fair, when I was a kid and I left toys places, my parents didn't have time to go look for my toys when they were missing. And often they would just kind of reappear somehow. To some degree, that is strangely realistic. Kind of makes you wonder man, when I lost that toy and for some reason I just found it again, maybe it's because they went on an adventure and then they came back.
You're right. You're right. I also think that it's probably done on purpose because of that fact.
Yeah.
That we usually don't know where our toys are, especially if you're a messy kid. And I almost thought that they were trying to promote the idea of, putting away your toys in the proper spot so that you know where they were, right? But then if you're just flinging the toys around, then really they could move and your brain doesn't care where it was. Or not even, because you might think that your mom moved your toy, right?
Yeah,
it's actually, you're right. It's actually kind of realistic.
But yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, we go into the film with knowledge that toys are alive. In real life, we're like, well, of course toys aren't alive. Until we see Toy Story, then we're like, oh, maybe they are alive.
That's why I was nice to my toys afterwards, and
exactly.
and I say sorry to them.
So the adults exist in a world where they're like, of course toys aren't alive. So they never stop to think like, this is weird. They just think, no, my kid just doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
Yeah.
If I had to peg something that I guess I didn't quite like, I feel like the third act, when they're trying to get out of Sid's house and then they're chasing the moving van, I've always kind of felt that it just kind of goes on too long. And there's too many things that kind of stand in their way, and it just feels like there's a point where it's like, oh, just get back in the moving van already.
Yeah. When they were in the pizza place or something, and they kept getting sidetracked, and it would have been so easy if Buzz just jumped into the freaking stroller, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just, there's so many moments of like, oh, they're almost there. Oh no, they're not. Oh, they're almost there. Oh no, they're not.
Yeah.
It just kind of goes through those motions just a few too many times, and it's kind of nitpicky, and I still enjoy it regardless. But it's just one of those things where it's like, sometimes it feels a little uncreative. Yeah.
I suppose, but I understand that for the first Toy Story, they really wanted to emphasize that it is a toy world, right? So there can only be so much that they can do, so many locations, right? Mostly in their room and mostly at Sid's place. And that's why I really liked Toy Story 2 and 3, because they just branched out in locations. They went way further.
Oh yeah, that's
right?
true. Yeah, they went to Al's toy barn and
Toy Story 3. I mean, they went to that daycare and a whole bunch of other places. And so I really forgive Toy Story 1 for just kind of keeping it local, right? Because it's the first time they've introduced that concept, and so they really want to focus on the in-house toy idea.
Let's talk a little bit of the cast and crew. Yeah, they got some big names for this. I mean, in the 90s, Tom Hanks.
He was huge.
He was huge. He was, at this point, he had already won 2 Academy Awards, and
I really liked watching You've Got Mail. That was one of my favorite movies.
You've Got Mail. I haven't seen that in ages. I remember not liking it that much. But
well, then we can't be friends.
Oh, there you go. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to end this episode a little early, because we're going to be fighting here for a little while. I'd have to watch it again to have a solid opinion. I might get more out of it now that I'm a little older. Mm-hmm. I mean, to be fair, You've Got Mail, not designed for teenage boys.
Oh, you're right. You're right. You'd probably appreciate it better as an adult.
Another big name was Tim Allen, who, of course, at that point in time was on the very popular sitcom Home Improvement. And he had a string of a lot of hit movies as well. He was doing a lot of movies for Disney. Jungle to Jungle, I want to say. He did a lot of Christmas movies. He was the Santa Claus and stuff like that. So he was transitioning quite well from a television actor into a movie actor.
Oh, I wanted to point out that I really love the casting choices. I mean, Tom Hanks as Woody, Tim Allen as Buzz Lightyear. It was just so fitting of their characters, right? And especially Tom Hanks. I mean, he's such a good actor, and I really love how he portrayed Woody, because it's so hard to dislike him, even though he might do things that the other toys consider obnoxious. In every movie that happens, but at the same time you have to relate to Woody, and you kind of sympathize with him.
And Tom Hanks has a voice that's got a very natural... It's something very relatable about it.
Yeah.
Almost right away.
Yeah.
He's got a very unique voice, and it's
he might have been definitely in my top 2 actors when I was young. He was...
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Now he's old news.
now somehow he was in a Carly Rae Jepsen music video.
No way.
Yeah, that, and wow, Tom Hanks, what's going on here, pal?
Oh, that's weird.
Although he probably should have gotten some. I think he should have gotten more nominations and stuff for the one with the Somalian pirates, Captain Phillips. He was pretty good in that.
Oh, I didn't watch that.
It was he was really good. Jim Varney, who was popular from the Ernest movies, played Slinky the dog. Did you ever watch any of these Ernest movies?
Oh, Ernest! I was wondering. Yeah, the voice now I get where the raspy kind of voice comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can put it on the face now. Oh, it's really well done.
The late, great Jim Varney, very funny guy. Or either, well, he's funny when I was a kid. I haven't watched one of his movies since. I don't know if I want to, like, ruin
the idea of it, yeah.
Exactly.
Like how I ruined Titanic for myself.
yeah, just like that.
It was so tragic when I watched it.
John Ratzenberger played Ham, and he was mostly known for Cheers, but now he's known as the guy who's always in a Pixar movie, because he has guest appearances in almost all the Pixar movies.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. He's the pig, right? Ham, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I love how the actors' personalities really show through, even in the character design of the toys.
Oh, yeah.
Well, not to say that he looks like a pig, but...
but it does show, like, really good casting, for sure. Wallace Shawn is another prolific voice actor who played Rex. And he's best known, not just as Rex, but also as... Do you ever see The Princess Bride? He's the guy who goes, inconceivable.
Honestly, I know... I've seen him in something. I'm just not sure. And he was... Like, my parents always watched him in movies.
He's been around. He's got a lot of work behind his belt.
I love that the fact that the dinosaur has such a light, really vulnerable voice that you don't expect from some toy that's supposed to be really...
You know what? That's a good point in that I kind of forgot how funny that is.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I'm so used to that being the voice of Rex. The fact that he is the voice, like he's got this like really meek sounding voice playing a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I forgot that is actually really funny. Like you're right, the smorgasbord, as it were, of character voices. It's really well rounded. It's really well thought out.
Yes,
cast.
very.
And Don Rickles is Mr. Potato Head. I want to say, did Don Rickles die recently? No, he's still alive. Okay, I don't know why I thought he may have died. But he's old, man. And I don't really know what else.
I don't know if he might have died.
Well,
professionalism.
Hopefully Don Rickles doesn't listen to this. He was in Casino, but he's most well known for the Toy Story movies at this point in time. He has a prolific career. Born in 1926. The guy was born in the Depression. Yikes. He's in his 80s, man. That's crazy. So...
Still young.
Yeah.
He's not 100 yet.
He's still young at heart. And it was directed and partially written by John Lasseter. And John Lasseter's gone on to direct Toy Story 2 and Cars. Disney was so impressed with him that they made him head of the animation department.
Wow.
And so, like, John Lasseter's got executive producer credit, I believe, on most of the Disney films following when Disney bought Pixar. So when Toy Story, when that came out, Pixar and Disney were affiliated, but Disney hadn't bought Pixar until, I can't remember exactly when, but I want to say it was around 2005, maybe. I don't know. I know that basically because Pixar wanted to get away from Disney, and Disney's like, no, we're just going to buy you.
We're just going to consume you.
But a lot of good things came out of John Lasseter becoming the head of Disney Animation, and one of the things that he changed was that the Disney stopped making those direct-to-DVD crappy sequels.
Thank you.
He just pulled the plug on that. He's like,
Thank you, John.
He's like, nobody likes this. And they're like, oh, okay, I guess we should stop.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. I don't know. Any other thoughts on Toy Story that you want to share with people?
Who's your favorite character?
That's a good question. Who is my favorite character? This is one of those cases where it's really quite an ensemble cast.
It is.
They work really well together. There's an interesting chemistry between all the different characters. Like a rivalry, it seems, between Potato Head and Ham. And Potato Head is always kind of like the antagonist of the bunch. And then there's the romance between Woody and Bo Peep. Let me think about it a little bit.
Okay.
Who's your favorite character?
Easily, I'd probably say Woody. I mean, like, he's probably in the top 2 at least. Because it's just, I probably just loved Tom Hanks at the time, and I love his take on the character. And he was so relatable to me that, like, I was always rooting for him. The way it's written, that's the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you were rooting for Woody, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because even if you see he's making these selfish choices, you understand and connect to him regardless.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, I'm into evil characters. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, it's
I love
always
evil.
it's always Mr. Potato Head and Hammer and the antagonists are always getting something wrong about Woody, but we see Woody's perspective always, right? And then that's why we're thinking, oh, that's why he made that choice, and so we can sympathize with him more rather than just saying, oh, he's selfish.
I think I might have to go with Ham. I think that he might be my favorite, just because like he's got a lot of just a lot of personality.
A lot of sass.
Sass is a perfect word, and I love that he kind of like grounds Mr. Potato Head. I think he kind of keeps him in check to some degree, but he's not like a kiss ass like Slinky the dog, where he's just like I'll do whatever you want me to, Woody.
That's actually not bad of an impression. Good job.
I do voices.
Yes.
I
just do little girls.
Wow.
Little girl voices, okay?
No, that's fine.
That's why when you're in voiceover, it's the weirdest thing, because then you're thinking, oh yeah, I'm really good at doing little boys, right? And it's like, that just sounds weird, like out of context.
Yeah, so I quite like him. I think that he's got a lot of character, and he just kind of he's a bit of an antagonist, but like a much more relatable and funny antagonist than Potato Head was, I think. And even then, like antagonist, he feels like too strong a word. They're just sort of skeptics, I guess, of Woody's intentions.
Yeah, skeptics. What about your favorite scenes? Scenes that really pop out for you?
Pizza Planet. I always liked Pizza Planet because especially since it reminds me of Palladium. Do you remember Palladium?
Oh my gosh, that thing that went out of business really fast.
Oh yeah, I remember when it was launched.
Yeah.
And it was like the biggest, coolest thing, and all I wanted to do was go to Palladium. It was just this huge arcade, and I only went there a few times because I didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
But it was so much fun, and Pizza Planet just had that look down, like just perfectly captured the gigantic arcade of the 90s. What about you?
You know what? I really love the beginning scenes. That's what I always love about Toy Story, how they start the movie. Because it's
You've got a friend in me. Like
yeah, well, it's very nostalgic, very heartwarming, and it really settles you into the movie before you get into the conflict. Especially when you first watch Toy Story, you just want to be introduced to the characters without like seeing them go through an adventure yet, right? So then I think the establishing scenes are my favorite.
It is interesting that they decide to introduce the characters not through who they actually are, but through how Andy plays with them. Mm-hmm. That to me was really interesting, and or rather, it's really interesting now more so than it was as a kid, where it's just like, oh, that's actually an interesting choice to establish Andy's relationship with the toys, which I guess is sort of like, I guess kind of what the movie's about, is Andy's relationship with with Woody.
Yeah.
And like how close he is to Woody, and how Woody is his hero. And how that changes.
Yeah, I love that they had that, kind of side story of them having a mission to see what new toys that Andy got, right? I loved how they worked together with the soldiers, and they creatively gave them different tasks.
I like the soldiers as well, like their mission to go and check out the
and they have all kinds of like, you're a toy, you can only use so many tools, right? And you can only move certain like parts of yourself.
Yeah, very, very creative ways of using toys that mostly do actually exist. Like, most of the toys were pre-existing toys, except for, like, the main ones, like Woody and Buzz and Rex. And yeah, very, very creative writing on that part. What would you rate this movie out of 5 stars?
I know that for sure, minimum 4. The fact is that, I really enjoyed Toy Story 3 so much that I would give Toy Story 3 5 out of 5, and that's why I have to give Toy Story, the first one, a lower mark.
Interesting, yeah.
So like,
do you think that would you rank Toy Story higher if Toy Story 3 hadn't been made?
Yeah, that's odd, but they kind of like, I always thought that like sequels, no matter what, they suck, right? Especially for an animated movie. And, all those, like, Little Mermaid 2 or something.
Yeah, luckily that was the case.
Yeah, and then you think it's going to be like that, and they kind of take it to another level. And that really, really impressed me. So that's why I would probably place Toy Story 1 between, like, a 4.3 3 to 4.5.
Well, let's
Yeah.
just do the. I kind of round it to. We don't need to do like 0.3. So I usually do like.
Oh, you mean 4.5 kind of thing?
4 to 4.5 to 5. So I'd give it a 4.5 myself. I feel. The part of me thinks like maybe I should just give it the full 5. Like for what it wound up being, what it represented, and how it changed the industry. Like it was. For the time, like nothing else anyone had seen. Sweet. So, I guess you'd recommend the movie. Who would you recommend it to, if you had to pick? An audience.
People who think that animated movies can never be for adults, or that they have crappy stories, or it's like the same arc line. But Toy Story just takes it to a different level than all those other kind of cookie cutter Disney stories. Right now, I know that the first person I want to say to watch it is my sister's fiance, who's rejecting even like watching it. You know, I'm saying, do it for my sister. If you love her, watch this movie.
Hey man, if you really love her, you'll watch Toy Story.
Yeah, exactly. And then my sister loves the movie as well, and she was telling him, you know what, it's so different from what you think it might be.
So you're saying this is a good cartoon for people who don't like cartoons.
Yes, exactly.
There you go. I would agree with that. I think there's a lot of Pixar films that are great for people who wouldn't normally watch animated films.
Sorry, this is a slight segue, but on the topic of movies that you think will no matter what be bad because of its genre, like for example, teenage movies back in the day, it was just like, oh, this is another teen movie, right?
Right, yeah.
And that's what I thought Mean Girls was.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm not watching that because I think it's going to be shallow, just very typical teen angst. And then you watch it, it's hilarious. It's so well written by Tina Fey, one of my favorite actress writers ever. And then it kind of blows your mind, and you're thinking, oh my god, maybe I should stop being so prejudiced. And for the same reason, Toy Story, I think, will change a lot of minds.
Yeah, Mean Girls well exceeded my expectations
yes,
as well.
Exactly.
I'm just like, oh, okay, this isn't the kind of movie that I thought it was.
Yeah.
I concur. Yeah, I recommend it. I recommend it, to anyone, families, like whole families. Like, don't just drag your kids and go like, oh, okay, here we go, we're gonna watch a movie. But adults can sit down and watch and get a lot out of it too. There's a lot of layers to it, but it's also really funny for kids. There's a lot of good laughs in this movie.
I feel like you can even appreciate the laughs more as an adult,
I think so,
to really understand the words and the play on words and such.
Yeah, I think so. So, how can you not recommend Toy Story to people? It's what a great starting point.
Yeah.
For Pixar's amazing filmography.
Yeah, it would be pretty much impossible for me to say someone's like, I really need to watch a movie that won't make me sad, right? And I'd be like, well, why don't you watch Toy Story?
Yeah, well, I guess we'll leave it at that. Check out Toy Story, guys. Most people have already seen it because it's one of those ones you grow up with.
But those who haven't, they're like unicorns, and you gotta get them on board.
Capture the unicorn and make them watch Toy Story. And if you happen to see a real unicorn, capture that in one and make it watch Toy Story as well.
Well, I really enjoyed my time here on the show as a guest, and thank you for having me on here. It's really fun to
joining us. Yeah.
Talk about this. And, for those who want to possibly hear more of my shows or my friends' shows, it's podswithbenefits.com.
Yeah, well, and thank you all of you for listening to Leaminn and I talk about Toy Story. You can check us out at checkingthegatepodcast.com and at checkinggatecast if you want to follow us on Twitter.
Okay. Do you have a personal Twitter?
I have a personal Twitter as well, at Doug J.C. Ferguson.
Right. My personal Twitter is at Leaminn, so Leaminn.
At Leaminn? Just Leaminn?
Yeah, at Leaminn.
Oh, cool. There you go.
Because there's only one Leaminn.
There is only one Leaminn, everyone, and she is right here. And... And also, you can check out my other podcast, Music A to Z, at musica2zpodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening. So we are moving on.
Moving on.